Hello, it's Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland. Welcome back to the channel. I was told by one viewer I should straighten my hat, but it's as munted and as old as I am, and so no going back, unfortunately, and not much chance of getting a new one here in Armenia. Today we're going to talk about probably one of the most important things for any person who has any caring for this country and the Armenian people, and that's national security. Uh, how is it that you can have national security without a strong economy, right? You can't. As Eric Hakobian on CivilNet often mentions, you need to build your strength economically. You need to be valuable to the people outside. Didn't we see during the 2020 Artsakh war that people didn't care? And you need to communicate effectively. And so today I'm going to talk about some of the lessons that we have learned through these last couple of years. I mean, we could be sitting in Australia on the beach enjoying ourselves rather than going through this daily stress. But we came because we thought we might want to help these people. And indeed, in every country, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good here being that there are opportunities. I mean, we've come to a beautiful place, 300 days of sunshine, middle of winemaking. Um, it's always been a dream to have our own vineyards, small as they are, but right next to the world's oldest winery. But if this was the West, if this was a developed country, uh, there'd be so many people here, it'd be almost overrun. And we see people struggling everywhere. We hardly see any visitors because they're all sitting in Yerevan. It's an absolute disaster, Yerevan, putting all the eggs in one basket. But I'll get to that later. I want to talk about, first and foremost, the horrible policy directions that the government has taken, which is causing infinite problems for people like us. Uh, there are, as I say, wonderful opportunities for people to come here and uh, not just help these people, but also to have good business, sustainable business. Because he who has minerals and green lands and water um, will be rich in the 21st century, right? Those are sort of resources that are necessary. But the sort of things that we've had to deal with, the almost non-existent justice system. I mean, if investors knew that their bank account could be frozen without you doing anything wrong by false complaint, no evidence, no court hearing, uh, and even no notification, then do you think so many investors would come here? I think not. Oh, yeah, we've had to deal with this for the last year and a quarter of nonsense court hearings where they shuttle you in for an hour and shuttle you out, just talk about modalities. We haven't even got to the arguments about the court case, which we have copious quantities of evidence for. No, we have to sit there and listen to what I see as incompetent lawyers talking about uh, the way in which the so-called jurisprudence system works here. Discovery should be done before court hearings, not during. So we are under great stress and upset for the Armenian people as to how this justice system works here. Uh, I mean, you even have to pay a 3% so kind of court tax as a victim to have a hearing. It's unbelievable. Uh, the communication and cooperation with the diaspora, the single most important investment element for Armenia, just isn't as it should be. I mean, I know that the diaspora has its problems. It should not be meddling in political affairs unless they're citizens of this country. And they certainly shouldn't be advocating to go back to the oligarchy world, which caused these great weaknesses in the first place. But what I see is a great schism at the moment between the Armenian government and the diaspora. And that just isn't right. The diaspora are precious to Armenia. They have so many excellent people who wish to give and help. And I mean, we just recently had a group of Christians staying here who were helping to build homes, changing people's lives, called Fullers. So bless them. But at the moment, I see a huge gap, and it's not right. It's not the way I would run this country. But if I was running this country, first of all, I would fire most people who are in government, from local government through to central government, because there are serious problems with governance here, incompetence. Most of the ministries are just like empty shells. There's a minister who seems to be like running around frightened to do anything. And I'd love to be a fly on a wall when all these ministers get together and report to Pashinyan on progress, because like, for example, we've been waiting over 2 years for one piece of paperwork from a local municipality, which is about trying to create a tourist attraction which will help everybody here. So you can't change incompetence straight away. It takes time, but you need to attract good people and keep them there. And that's not the case here. The bureaucracy is something everybody knows about, but when we talk about the paperwork to do simple things, purchasing land, trying to do what would seem to be the positive thing for Armenia, is difficult to do here. They seem to, I mean, even we had the Indian community who came, some investors came, and you all know about India and about how much bureaucracy. I mean, I audited the Indian aviation authorities, and it's fantastic. They learnt from the British about bureaucracy, and they perfected it. Well, the Indians are complaining about Armenian bureaucracy. Can you believe that? So there's a lot of streamlining. I mean, as I say, I wish I could just get in there and kick backside and change a lot of things here. But nobody's going to be listening to someone like me. They're all very important in their offices. That's the problem here. There's just not that consultative way of doing things in Armenian culture. Once you get to a position, you look down upon people. I mean, I was told as a business person I should wear a suit and buy a Mercedes and stuff like that. And when they see me walking around in my gumboots with a wheelbarrow, they call kashka here, it's a Russian word, they sort of can't believe it. But this is the way they are. They judge a book by its cover. Consumer protection. How many things we bought here that were broken? I mean, we put in a bio-sewage system here. It cost me $18,000. And when I found to my horror that the pipework hadn't been connected, that it wasn't working properly, it was basically putting sewage everywhere. And I rang up and asked, can you come and fix it? And I was told that it was my responsibility now as the purchaser. And there's no comeback. If you go to a shop and ask for some return or something to be fixed, quite often you'll get something rude in response. You certainly won't get empathy. And they blame the Soviets. Well, perhaps, but I think there's always been this within their culture, because you haven't seen any development in this country before the Soviet era. And In some ways, when the Soviets came, they helped to develop this country a little bit. Anyway, so consumer protection legislation, non-existent. A failure to root out corruption and theft. I mean, we've had so much theft here. I'm struggling to find Christians in the first Christian nation. It's shameful. But I'll give you one classic example. We had tax Nazis come. Tax auditors come. And they sat here in this room at a table, and they, during the audit, asked, could they use this facility for their New Year's party? And don't worry about you guys being here. Don't worry. We'll look after the place. Yeah? We just pay you a peppercorn for this. And I'm saying, no, sorry. But in any case, this is a tax audit. You don't, I mean, I'm an auditor. You don't talk about things for personal gain during an audit. So we complained about this, of course. And in the normal Armenian way, there's retribution. So they decided to fine my wife for not registering herself as an employee. She's the owner on paper with me, but she has to register herself as an employee. Now, I looked in the tax code as one does, and of course there's nothing there in the tax. There's no tax law. So I challenged this, and we went all the way into Yerevan to challenge them, and found that we got another minor fine for not responding in time. But of course they didn't provide the information. They didn't tell us in writing that we had a problem. So what does this look like to you? Well, it looks not good for me in terms of the authorities not doing the correct thing during an official business, and then doing retribution when they're found out. I mean, it's horrendous to not have a law in place, and not even any guidance material, heaven forbid. So there would be guidance material so that everyone was clear, the auditor, the auditee, the public in general. No guidance material. But despite all that, they can still fine you. And there's no comeback. There's no way you can complain about it. This is Armenia. You know, the other corruptions that we come across, like misuse of World Bank funds. I don't need to go into the details of that. Where we were disadvantaged as a business over another business. It's completely unacceptable. All of these things do not provide an investment environment. There are groups like there's one that's just been terminated called NCIE, which was part of the fragile Ministry of Economy, one of those ministries which was doing nothing as far as I could see, and there's another group which was doing almost what we saw, I think, precisely the same job. Why is that? Nobody talks to each other. Called Enterprise Armenia, and they're nice people, and they sometimes visited. But generally, I mean, I did a report on many of these problems for them, something that would have I would have charged Singapore tens of thousands of dollars for advice on this consultation on structural issues that they need to look at. And guess what was done with that report? Well, nothing, not even an acknowledgement. To this day, perhaps a year and a half later, I still haven't had a response to that report, which was solely designed to help the people of Armenia and investors. Now, all I expected them to do was to farm it out to the various ministries, whichever was responsible for that particular issue. I didn't expect Enterprise Armenia to fix all the problems. But even that was too hard. I mean, as I say, they're good people. And I'm sure they mean well. And I'm sure they're going to be upset at me even talking about them. But sorry, I'm at the end of my patience. I've had 2 years of absolute rubbish. And people from the outside would not understand the stress involved in trying to deal with these people. I came from a world of aviation, 45 years of professionals surrounding me, and these people are anything but. So let's get down to the key points I wanted to finish with. As a result of this terrible investment environment, what else are some of the major national security problems here? Because without a good economy, you have a national security issue. You invest 90% plus in Yerevan. You put all your eggs in one basket. That place called Yerevan, that I call catastrophe. It's a Russian word for catastrophe. It means a place without proper infrastructure, where traffic is everywhere and no planning seems evident. And they put all of these people, all their resources, all their eggs in one basket there. And what about the rural area, the heartland, like here? Less than 10% for all the provinces, probably less than 1% for all the southern provinces, which, if I looked at it from a security perspective, is probably worth more than 50% of this country, because the southern provinces are the legs that connect the body, Armenia, to the rest of the world, the feet, right? Where it connects to the world. Iran, India, Asia. This is the center of the economic world these days, and yet, and people are woken up because the enemy is busy threatening that southern corridor, right? But if you had the same level of investment that you would understand its importance security-wise, then you would be putting 50% or more investment here. But no, you just continue to build tall buildings. You know, when the last time the main internet backbone was upgraded in these areas here? 1998. 26 years ago. And we rely upon unreliable UCOM system here, phones, mobiles that go off all the time. We rely upon electricity systems which go every second day are failing. Water systems. Any utility here is on its knees. How do investors work in that environment when the government doesn't incentivize investment in the rural areas to the extent it should, commensurate with the national security situation? So you depopulate the vital southern areas because all the young people in the villages, they go to Yerevan or even further afield. And who's here to defend these lands? And you make stupid decisions. Sorry, Education Ministry, I'm going to call you out. You can get all upset at me. But how do you justify putting all the universities in one place near Yerevan, in a place called Ashtarakh? I mean, we had investors ready to create a new university not far from here, bring in international students, create a vibrancy, repopulate this area. And what happened? The Ministry of Education was actually even rude to them. These are Indian investors. You know how important India is right now to Armenia, strategically? Yes? And yet these are ministry officials who are so important that they would be rude to investors like that. And they would put all the educational institutions in one place, not far north of Yerevan, so that where do students go in the southern regions? Well, they have to go hundreds of kilometres. What's the opportunity for the families of investors to get educated? I mean, isn't it so that if you have good schooling, people will come, including those with businesses? Yeah, but they're so short-sighted. Some ministry official, without, it seems, consultation, has decided that, and that's it. It's like an edict. So is Armenia a democracy? Or is it one of those authoritarian states pretending to be a democracy? You make your mind up. But the thing that irks me most is that if I use the analogy of the southern provinces, Vaitsor and Sunik, being the legs supporting Armenia, its connection to the outside world, then Vaitsor would be the knees. Without Vaitsor, there's no connection to the feet, right? So we lose Sunik. We already have Artsakh temporarily occupied because you didn't pay enough attention to planning, right? You danced and you sang for 30 years and you didn't do enough planning about the strategies to protect the place, right? And you're doing it again. I mean, yes, there's some attention on Sunik right now. People are rushing down there to create consulates down there, trying to get an influence. But what about Vaitsor? The enemy's just got to go a few kilometres and cut Sunik off. And what will Sunik be? We'll have another rush of refugees. And Yerevan will be surrounded. What will all your investment in Yerevan be like then, when Armenia is basically an unviable country? I mean, we don't need Yerevan so much. Yerevan needs us. And yet look how this area is treated. The tour guides, without thinking for a moment about their patriotic duty to help build this part, they sit in Yerevan and they just promote day trips to this part. Oh, we know because there's people in the food outlets here during the day, but then they all rush back to Yerevan because you apparently can't get any good comfort or any good food outside Yerevan. We'd like to prove people wrong. Our score is 9.7, I'm proud to say, on booking.com. But, we only get the odd foreigner. I'm really ashamed that we had to come here and find this lesson out, that Armenians really don't care about their country. They care about Yerevan, and they only react at the very last minute when it's too late. So I'm hoping that authorities will hear this. I hope the diaspora hears this. I hope you share. I hope you that this makes a little difference, and that the people that I upset understand that I'm talking about this for the sake of this country and the future of the people here. I don't want to upset anybody, but I have to speak the truth, and I have to especially warn other investors, because you can't invest here unless you know exactly what's going on here, and unless there are major changes made. So on a positive note, come and visit. We have wine culture here. Enjoy our beautiful nature. Outside the windows, you can see the ibex on the mountain, and get away from that chaotic city called Yerevan. We hope to warmly welcome you to Armenia and Vaitsor, and hopefully people will understand how important this area is. Thank you for listening. This is Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland.